So I feel like I never have enough space in my house. What is a way that I can create more space?
Well, there's actually a couple ways to add more space to your home. Just a few of them. Garage spaces are a great way to finish off the additional living space if you're not really using them for your car. Finished attic spaces. We've all got attics. Is there any usable space we can create to some living space up there for you?
Tell us about an attic conversion and what that entails.
I'm going to start with framing because that seems to be the most important stumbling block, where you have to have a certain amount of finished square feet in your height to be able to safely walk in that room. So building these walls in from the eaves of the house so you've got a usable space and something that will pass code compliance is very, very important. You also want to manage your space with hallways. So placing framing for your hallways and closets is also very important. That it doesn't interfere with your room usage. Insulation, another huge deal. So typically your attic is not going to be insulated. So when you go up there in the summer, it's very hot, and in the winter, it's very cold. Well, now this is going to be a living space. We can stick an air conditioner or heater up there, but that's not going to do anything if you're not insulated. So making sure you've got full bat insulation in your walls and your ceiling rafters and things are sealed up very, very well is paramount when you're dealing with an attic because of where you're at. It's on the top floor and exposed to the elements. Some of the more difficult things to get around when doing an attic conversion are things like getting plumbing upstairs. So if you want a bathroom upstairs, how are we going to get plumbing from the crawl space or basement or first floor up to the second floor? Things like routing electric from your breaker panel over to where the attic space is going to be. How are we going to get those wires up into that space? Heating and cooling has gotten a lot easier in recent years with the advent of mini split systems. So instead of having to run conventional ductwork, we can put standalone HVAC systems in your attic, and that'll handle your heating and cooling needs for you. One of the other important things to think about is space management. So if you are giving up the space in your attic to make it a finished living space, you're going to obviously have things that you've stored up there. So part of this process is managing the space to where you're going to have a utilitarian function to your attic still, yet maintain the functionality of the design space you're having for the living area. So some of that process is also managing how we're going to place walls and leave cavities to where you have those storage type areas over there. Things like moving drywall and large components, trim items up to an attic. Most oftentimes all you've got is a narrow stairwell and sometimes just a small opening. How are we going to get these larger elements up into that room in one piece? A lot of times they'll involve removing an existing attic window or cutting a space to be able to get these building elements in there and then put them back in when you're done. So it being up on the second floor, top level of your home presents some challenges when designing and actually doing this work as well too. But it doesn't change the overall process. You're going to go from design to mechanical installation and framing and then to all your building finishes. I just finished an attic conversion in Bridgeville about 3 months ago. They did not have an attic space. This is an older couple who has a lot of children, and now consequently they have a lot of grandchildren. So when these grandchildren come over, they need a place to go and a place to stay. So they had this wonderful attic space upstairs. It ended up being roughly 1,800 square feet of attic space. I know, right?
Oh my goodness.
It's bigger than most houses. So what they were looking for was a couple bedroom spaces up there with a bathroom and basically a play area for the kids. So this is going to be a place where all the grandkids, 5 to 15, can hang out and play while they're there. What stood out most about this project was we were a design build in this case as well too. So this was not architect design. This is another instance where I sat down with the clients and they basically told me what they wanted. We walked upstairs, and this was the summertime doing it, so it was quite hot in a non-air conditioned attic. But we spent an hour or so up there with a roll of masking tape and just took the time to lay out where we want these rooms and what they're going to look like. Where are we going to put things like hallways? Because when you're designing these types of spaces, you have to have a path of travel that takes up space. One of the other things you're going to want to consider with attic spaces, which is another consideration we had here, is we're dealing with an attic. So your ceiling is literally the underside of the roof to your house. So those roofs are coming down at such extreme angles, you can't go as wide as you want to because you only have a 4-foot tall wall. There are certain restrictions that we are limited to with rooms, so we have to bring some walls in. So you have to manage your space very well. The great thing about this project was they had such a long space that not having it being as wide as we wanted to made up for that. So we were able to stretch the room out. So ultimately what we ended up with was a beautiful staircase leading up to a play area. We had a separate bunk area where they could put some bunk beds for their kids, 2 bedrooms, and a wonderful bathroom with a ton of finished storage at the very back of the place. So in addition to having all the space they wanted for their grandkids, they still had a huge portion of space. I think it broke down to about 500 square feet of finished storage still for themselves.
Wow.
So yeah, it turned out really well. And like I said, taking the time to sit down in the front end to do that design work, to lay things out. So that the clients have a visual on what it's going to look like before you actually get to building really made that thing turn out well, and one that when we were finished, the clients couldn't have been more happy about.